I am Davey Wavy, and welcome to day 5 of The Business of Sex. It is our grand finale, and I'm super excited that you are joining us tonight. So a big shout out to our sponsors, adamandeve.com and Pure for Men, for making all this possible. And I am really excited to talk to our first guest, Dr. Donahue.
How are you?
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So in real life, Dr. Donahue is my sex therapist.
That's right.
So you are solely responsible.
Yeah, I'm solely responsible for the health of your relationship.
Yeah. So
if it's going well, you're welcome. If it's not, I'm sorry.
if it's a disaster, it's so for Jake, if you're watching right now.
Tweet me.
Yeah. So you have a new book.
I do.
It is called Sex Outside the Lines.
Yes.
And one of the themes in it is that our culture, we're kind of afraid to talk about sex.
Completely afraid.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's what we're doing all week, right?
Why is it that people are so afraid to talk about it?
We're afraid to talk about sex because we only encounter it in the bedroom when we have sex. Otherwise, you're not taught how to really deal with it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, the funny example I always give is if I'm walking through Whole Foods and I bump my elbow, you can loudly say, oh, I hurt my elbow. But if you bump your penis, you're not going to loudly say you bumped your penis, right? So we can talk about all of our body parts, but we can't talk about the specific ones.
Do you bump your penis a lot at Whole Foods? I want to know what Whole Foods you're going to.
I do a lot of things at Whole Foods. I use a lot of Whole Foods examples. But it's, I'll be in line and I'll be on the phone with someone and I'll be talking about a situation and a sex part of it will fold in.
Yeah.
And I'll even notice me kind of wanting to drop my tone a little bit, see who's around me, see if they're looking at me. And I have to remind myself in those moments that there's nothing shameful in talking about a sexual experience.
So is this why, so yesterday's show, we had 2 gay for pay strippers.
Right.
And at one point I was getting a lap dance or giving a lap dance and the word boy pussy or pussy boy, so it was a lot. And I was bright red. I was bright red. I was practically crying. I was enjoying it, but it was it was super triggering. Is that?
Because you're not used to that. I mean, again, other than that day when you're dancing on his lap, when was the last time that you gave a strip dance? Right, never.
Yeah, never.
When was the last time someone talked about boy pussy in front of you?
Well, last night.
But I think
that's a daily occurrence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we live in a super sexualized culture, which is what's so interesting. Is you drive down the street, you see it on billboards, and you see it in TV. But again, we still talk about it in a bad, shameful, suspicious way.
Right. Well, and I was raised Catholic, and I was pretty much taught that anything that brought me pleasure, whether it was masturbating or gay sex, all of that was bad.
Oh, how about this? I was raised as a therapist and a psychologist, and I was taught the same thing.
Wow.
Yes, that if someone's really interested in sex or has a lot of sex, automatically we're supposed to treat it like it's a red flag.
Yeah.
And find out why. But if you're really interested, I think I talk about this in the book. I don't remember. I wrote it a long time ago, so I often quote it erroneously. But if you can watch football for 6 hours on a Sunday, if you can watch Real Housewives episodes for 6 hours on a Sunday, why can't you masturbate or have sex for 6 hours on a Sunday without people going, oh my God, you're a sex addict, there's something wrong? Because sex is always a special case.
Yeah, that's so that's okay that I do that.
It's absolutely okay.
Okay.
Keep it up.
Yeah, so how do we move past that then? How do we go to a place where we can celebrate that and embrace it and own it?
Yeah, one of the things...
in 30 seconds, please.
Oh, sorry.
No,
have more sex. You have to have more sex. And that's an answer to a lot of things I do. Yeah. I mean, one of the number one ways to get more comfortable with sex and to get more comfortable with your body and to get more comfortable with more intimacy is to actually have sex. But the second thing is be careful about the people you spend time around, because a lot of our attitudes and values around sex are based on the way people reflect it back to us. So don't let your friends slut shame you. Don't let your friends, put your sex down.
There's this influencer. I'm sure you have no idea who this is. His name's Lance the Driver. He's super cute. He does car stuff. Okay. He has the most beautiful feet that I've ever seen. I've never had a foot fetish.
I have very nice feet as well, actually.
Do you?
I
do. They're covered up, so I wouldn't know. I literally want to lick his feet.
Do it.
And to me, that's that's the most degrading thing you can do to
really?
yourself,
Why?
Lick someone's feet.
Why?
It's almost dehumanizing.
Okay.
Do I hate myself?
I would say if you feel that way, your homework would be to lick some feet and then try to struggle to find some confidence in yourself after having done so.
And not feel like a piece of shit after I've done it.
Yeah. Then this is an example of how we can use sex to feel better about ourselves.
So there's fetishes like that, licking someone's feet. There's also stuff that's maybe a little bit, I don't want to say like more extreme, but how do you know if it's better to have that fantasy in your mind versus actually acting it out?
Yeah. Most fantasies are far better in our minds. And that's the beauty of fantasy, is that we don't have to worry about someone's feelings. We don't have to worry about law. We don't have to worry about social norms and values or smells or tastes.
Right.
And so a lot of fantasies, that's why we have fantasy, right? But if you want to act some of them out, I'm always a supporter of that, because if we want to have a long-term, hot, arousing sex life, it's about having newness and novelty. So people that come into my office and say, I'm really bored with sex, or I've been monogamous for a long time, I tell them, what are some fetishes we can try to fold into your sex life?
Is there ever an instance where you'd be like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't try that? Like,
Yes.
just let that one stay in your head.
Yeah.
How do you know when?
That happens often. Well, we live in a culture where you do want to worry about laws. I mean, that's a powerful
That's a
one.
good kind of boundary.
Yeah.
If it's illegal, maybe not.
I always say this, if it's consensual and there's compassion for the person on the receiving end of what you want to do, then you can feel comfortable.
Okay.
Because there's always a person on the receiving end.
Right.
Not always, but most likely.
Sometimes an animal.
Sometimes, well, that's a whole other topic. Because it's state by state with legals and ethics. But if you're having sex in a way that involves another person, you want to make sure you're having an awareness that you are impacting them and you're taking that into consideration.
From your experience, what's the biggest challenge that most people face in their sex lives?
Sexual boredom.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because
And-
we still have a really monogamous-centric culture where most people want and assume that's just going to be the two of us.
Right.
And inherently, anything that you are, encountering over and over repetitively is going to get a little boring. And so that's one of the number one issues, is just sexual boredom.
I think the first time, like our first session together, I was talking about how like I enjoy open relationships, and
Right.
and I was saying something about, I mean, I was kind of essentially creating this hierarchy of like, well, like I'd really love to have a monogamous relationship, but I can't quite get there, and so like maybe I'll try this open relationship thing, and you said to me like well, like open relationships, it's just as valid of an option as a monogamous relationship.
Right.
And I kind of just like looked at you like terrified, and you're like, do you know that that's, because I don't think people hear that.
They don't. And they don't even hear that within my field. And if you go in a therapist's office traditionally and you say, I'm in an open relationship where it's polyamorous or non-monogamous, they're going to go, oh, we got to talk about that. But if you go in and you're like, oh, we're monogamous, we're married, they're like, yeah, cool, no questions.
Right.
We're
monogamous, married,
that's not always
really
healthy.
bored.
Yeah, that's not always healthy. Marriage is not right for everyone. But yeah, having an open relationship is absolutely a legitimate, healthy option for people.
I want to talk a little bit about porn.
Okay, cool.
So I guess first, like, do you think that porn plays like a healthy role in people's lives? Like, does it make people feel more insecure? Does it
Yeah.
depend?
Well, culturally, because we're sex phobic, sex workers and porn, and porn actors are sex workers, it's a counterbalance to how sex phobic we are. The fact that we even have a special designation for them just speaks about the fact that they're not integrated in. So we need porn. Porn is just, its mere presence is a liberatory resistance to our cultural sex phobia. I think it's really healthy. I like couples to go there.
Can you say that again? That was good. Is
mere
that in the book?
Maybe. If not, I've tweeted that or something. The mere presence of porn is its own act of resistance in our cultural sex phobia. So I send people to porn to get comfortable seeing diverse bodies being eroticized and having sex. If someone has a fat body and they're like, I'm fat, no one would ever want to fuck me, I'm like, go watch fat porn, or go on a webcam and watch hundreds of guys masturbate to your fat body to remind you that you are a sexy, erotic person and people are interested in you. Porn also helps people find new sexual things to maybe engage in, or they're walked into a fetish where they're watching a porn and they see feet in a specific way and they're like, whoa, I never had an interest in that, but the way I'm seeing this porn, I want to try that. And then they bring that home to their partner. And if you're, alone and single, porn is awesome. If you're a hypersexual person, your
Wait,
partner
point at
wants
me,
to have
alone
sex.
if you're alone. Which I will be after the show. Yeah, great.
No, porn is good. It has a lot of value for sure.
What about the actors that are in it? Because you were mentioning that like there's still a lot of taboo around like the people who are providing this thing, which
Right.
does have value. And
For sure. I mean, we were talking earlier about the fact that I dated a lot of sex workers and porn performers, and they were always so shocked that I was open to dating them because they traditionally are someone that people want to have sex with.
right, you'd hook up with.
Right,
a
but most
porn
people
star.
don't want to form a meaningful relationship, which confused me because I'm okay with that.
Right.
But so there's a huge stigma around their value as a potential partner.
We have a question from Sean J. Previously, a guest spoke about making transgender people a fetish.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that?
They were talking about making them a fetish?
Yeah, so
What does that mean?
Buck Angel was our guest.
Okay.
And I said, do you feel like transgender people in porn are fetishized? And like, if so, is that a good thing or bad thing?
It's a bad thing.
And so what does that mean?
So to see a trans person as a fetish means that they're valuable for eroticism and for sex and to fuck, but not meaningful as a partner to build a life with or to take home or to really take seriously in a non-sexual way. So if you're open to masturbating to trans porn, but you would never date one in real life or take one home because you have negative thoughts about that, you're fetishizing them. And that's dehumanizing them.
Right.
That's reducing them down to nothing meaningful. And that, unfortunately, is really prevalent in our culture. I have a lot of trans friends, and their whole thing is people will fuck me, but people don't want to date me because what would their friends say? What would their family say? And that's just a lot of transphobia.
We have another comment from Kano, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, and this person saying, I'm okay with living in a monogamous relationship, with a non-monogamous relationship, but my boyfriend puts it down. How can I encourage him to look at it in another way?
Read my book.
It's a hard thing to talk about, though. So
For sure.
We're in a culture that kind of puts us all in this, like you need to have this monogamous relationship.
Oh yeah, and if you don't want monogamy, you're afraid of intimacy. You're, a sex addict, and that's not accurate. I think non-monogamy is the most honest thing. Our cheating rate is anywhere, depending on what the study is, 50 to 70%. So clearly monogamy is not working, we're failing.
Right.
Marriage has a similar failure rate. Clearly that model's not working either.
And maybe for some people it does, but
for 30%.
For
and how happy are those 30%? I'm not anti-marriage at all. But I think to say that for you to commit to another person that you're gonna be my only sex partner for the rest of my life is a really, really bold statement that most people fail at. And so the failure has to be lovingly and compassionately recognized, and other options have to be able to be discussed.
But so like I get that,
Right.
people home may get that, but
Sure.
our partners might not get that.
No, they don't, and they're not supposed to, because TV's not going to support that, magazines aren't going to support that, songs aren't written about that and supporting that. We'll get there, but most of America, I mean, again, the magazines you're reading, the TV shows you're watching, the songs you're listening to are reinforcing norms and values around sex and culture, and they're not really good ones.
So how would you, like, so say you're my or I'm your partner, and
Okay.
and
You're a lucky guy.
really into the tattoos. I have a tattoo fetish.
Cool.
So how would you bring that up in a conversation to like explore that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Number one, I wouldn't do it at a time when we're not doing well. If our relationship isn't going well, we're not feeling close and secure,
Wow,
that's not the time to bring it up
Right.
all, right? Because it's going to feel like an injury and a rejection. And if your relationship isn't going well, you're not ready for an open relationship. Because unhealthy relationships that open up are unhealthy open relationships. So you have to wait till you're healthy. Because if I can't manage you as a partner lovingly, I'm not ready to take on a second one, right? So if things are going well, then I lovingly bring up that I care about you and I love you and I want to maintain what we have and it's important and meaningful to me. And in order to be able to do that, I think it's important that I find ways to be able to also have sex with other people, and I don't want to do that behind your back, and so I want to talk to you about that, and it's not something I have to decide today. This is a conversation we might have for 6 months and keep circling back. We can try it. If it doesn't work out, we can go back to how we were before. I think it's really healthy to try things.
And read your book.
And to read my book.
Where can people find more about you and your book?
Okay, drchrisdonahue.com, and my book is Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Everywhere.
Cool. Well, thank you so much
awesome. It's good to see you.
being here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We have a quick break, just 60 seconds, so make sure you guys stay tuned for more. Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavy, and as a special thank you for adamandeve.com, use discount code LIVE50 to save 50% off almost any one item and get free shipping in the US. Adam and Eve has every sex toy that you could possibly imagine, and also a lot that you probably couldn't imagine, but trust me, they're real. You'll also get 24/7 customer service, 100% customer satisfaction, and 20% of the profits go to fighting the spread of HIV and STDs, so you can get off with peace of mind. With 10 million plus highly satisfied customers, see what all the fuss is about at adamandeve.com. I'm Davey Wavy, and today I want to talk to you about your bum, and more specifically, how you can stay ready. Pure for Men is a proprietary fiber supplement that is a blend of psyllium, flax, and chia seed. It works like a sponge going through your body so that when you go, you fully go. This, of course, reduces prep time and makes you more comfortable and confident. And since most of us don't get enough fiber naturally through our diets, this can make a difference in your overall health. For more information, visit pureformen.com. Hey guys, welcome back. So my next guest is Professor Rudy Talmor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your background is?
I'm Israeli Venezuelan. and I'm a professor of media studies at Pitzer College in California, and I'm an anthropologist of art and media.
Nice. Wow, that's quite the impressive resume. So we're here to talk about sex tourism, but let's start by taking a little bit of a step back and start with tourism in general. And at first glance, I think it's something that we all kind of think of as like a positive thing, like tourism, it's great. Is there another way to look at that?
Tourism is definitely framed as a positive thing all around, right? And it is in lots of ways. It's an adventure, it's a new experience, it's often framed as an expansion, like your world gets bigger.
Right.
There's nothing bad that you could possibly say about that. The biggest thing I think that's important to think about in relation to tourism is that very often it comes from an imbalance of power and wealth. And so you typically get people from very wealthy countries traveling to countries that are not as wealthy. So you don't have this kind of, that's not always the case, right? But the kind of tourism that I'm interested in thinking about, that is the case. So it's not this back and forth mobility where I can go to your country and you can come to my country. So right away, we're starting from an imbalance of power.
And it seems like in this context, you're really interested in talking about pleasure, right, as it relates to tourism. And is there another way to look then at pleasure other than this also really great thing?
Exactly. Like pleasure is beautiful and wonderful, and we think about it as this highly individual, personal thing. But we also have to think about the way that our pleasure is commodified and becomes a way for corporations or countries or larger forces to basically make money.
So what are some examples of that then?
Pleasure can sometimes be ignorant of its consequences. So you can be engaging in a pleasurable activity for yourself and you're not necessarily aware of the way that it's impacting the people that you're coming into contact with. Part of the reason for that is because a lot of the kind of tourism that I'm talking about, cultural tourism to places that are considered very different or exotic from the places that you are from, are usually based on fantasies that we hold of those places. We've never been to those places and we're not really aware of what those places are really like. We're living out a fantasy of those places that's been fed to us by the media, by film, etc.
We were talking about this earlier. I was on a cruise to Southeast Asia and there were different stops along the way, and we never stayed at a port overnight until we got to Bangkok. And as soon as we got in, like the boat just emptied out, and we're like, well, where did everyone go? And they're like, oh yeah, well, we're in Thailand. Like everyone went out to hire boys. It was a drive for people to take this cruise. Was like that it was going to go into Bangkok and that they were going to hire a boy. Like what's going on there? Like what is that?
No, I think that's a really good example of what we're talking about. There are certain places in the world that have now almost become branded or are known to be sex tourism destinations, and there's a huge industry within those places that depends on these kinds of exchanges. Again, there's the positive side to tourism, right? You get to travel, you get to see new places, and you get to really, you can then come back and recount what you've seen. And so I think if you talk about the places that you've gone to in a way that respects their complexity, that goes for a situation like Israel or South Africa, but it also goes for a situation like Thailand, right? If you come as a responsible tourist to places and you acknowledge that all of those places, like the place that you left behind, are complicated and messy. There's good things about them, there's bad things about them, but above all, there's real people in those places having real lives. And if you try to engage with those places on that level through what's been called responsible tourism, then you're doing something good, because it's not like tourism is going to go away. It's not like tourism should go away, but there's different ways to engage in it that I think are more or less positive to the relationship between communities and places.
So the message for people at home isn't to not travel. It's not to stay at home. Yeah, do it. Yeah. But just do it in a way that's responsible and that...
Do it in a way that's like really, truly open to the place and to the people, and try to really connect with people on their own terms and really understand what people are about and what their experience is about, rather than seeing them as this like very simple image.
Thanks for the advice. Thanks for coming in.
Of course. It's my pleasure.
We have a very quick 60-second break and then Jen Richards in just 60 seconds, so stay tuned. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. I'm Davey Wavy, and as a special thank you from adamandeve.com, use discount code LIVE50 to save 50% off almost any one item and get free shipping in the US. Adam and Eve has every sex toy that you could possibly imagine, and also a lot that you probably couldn't imagine, but trust me, they're real. You'll also get 24/7 customer service, 100% customer satisfaction, and 20% of the profits go to fighting the spread of HIV and STDs, so you can get off with peace of mind. With 10 million plus highly satisfied customers, see what all the fuss is about at adamandeve.com. Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavy, and today I want to talk to you about your bum, and more specifically, how you can stay ready. Pure for Men is a proprietary fiber supplement that is a blend of psyllium, flax, and chia seed. It works like a sponge going through your body so that when you go, you fully go. This, of course, reduces prep time and makes you more comfortable and confident. And since most of us don't get enough fiber naturally through our diets, this can make a difference in your overall health. For more information, visit pureformen.com. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here with Jen Richards. And the last time we chatted, I think I was saying, you have so much going on that you're making the rest of us look bad. Like, stop being so awesome, if you will. And case in point is Her Story, which is a series that you created, really incredible. Emmy nominated.
Emmy nominated.
Can you tell us a little bit about Her Story?
Her Story is a short form web series that lives on YouTube. It's 6 short episodes.
I can tell that you've said this a couple times.
It's about the dating lives of 2 trans women.
What inspired you then to create the series?
It's a longer story. The short version is someone asked me to write something for a production company, and it was a story that was on my mind. Longer story is a little bit more complicated, and the way that I was interacting with Laura Zach, my co-writer, and I was also living with Angelica Ross, who is the co-star of Her Story. But mostly it was just that I was in the midst of this wealth of stories that no one was telling.
Right. And here was an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and when we started it was going to be a very small scale. It was just going to be a few $1,000s.
It's not small scale.
No, it turned out to be much bigger, but even we're still astonished that we got the Emmy nom. We're the only independent series, only one not linked to a television show or a studio, no celebrities attached, and it's written, directed, starring, and about trans women.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
And it's like really highly produced. Like
yes. And
it's
that's all thanks to our executive producer Kate Fisher, who said, you know what, this script deserves more than what you can do. Let me bring to bear some more resources. And we brought in an incredible team, like our director Sydney Freeland, and others.
So you can watch it on YouTube.
It's free.
And
on YouTube right now. Not right now. Wait a few minutes, then go see it.
And the total length is like what, 45 minutes?
It's under an hour. It's like 54. It's like 6 9-minute episodes.
Okay, yeah. So you guys definitely need to check it out. But what's so interesting is like you decided to put it on YouTube. Like of all the places it could live, I have a little passion for YouTube. Like why did you pick that
I wish I could say it was this like bold strategy. It was simply we didn't know there was another option.
It was like last resort.
This was before the kind of big trans moment started happening. We didn't think that there was really going to be a big audience for it. That and combined with, I wanted to make it as accessible as possible. So much, what little trans content there is out there often lives behind a paywall.
Right.
Sense8 on Netflix or Transparent behind Amazon, Orange is the New Black. And that's, the girls I was trying to talk about and trying to really reach with this aren't there. They're often just, checking out YouTube on their phones or in a public library. So we wanted to make it as accessible as possible.
So then what has the response been for people that have seen it?
It's been overwhelming. The amount of views astonished us all. The fact that it's been seen in something like 175 different countries so far. It's been translated into multiple languages, all from users. It's something that we don't do on our own. We often get news, we'll see pictures of a viewing party that someone held in Bangladesh or Croatia. It's been astonishing. And of course the mail that we get and the messages, it's been amazing. And not just from trans people, from people who are partners of trans people, who know trans people.
Right.
Sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm a straight white man and I watched your thing and it's like, wow, I never thought about that. And you really changed my perspective.
Yeah, and all the more reason to watch it, to learn and to get educated. Do you think that there will be a full treatment of the season?
Well, Laura and I actually scripted a very detailed breakdown for an entire season of Her Story. So it's 10 30-minute episodes. So what we've shot is really just the beginning of a much bigger story, broader palette of characters, and we are ready for the highest bidder. So Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, Showtime, HBO, Live, bring them all. So we've got stories to tell.
Let's talk about something that we're both really passionate about, which is sucking dick.
You know me well.
Yeah, we were talking about making a YouTube video about sucking dick.
Yes.
And I can't remember what the comment was or what started it, but it was some situation. Like what we wanted to do was like have you walk up to people
Right.
like on the street and be like, do you think it's gay if a guy sucks a dick? And I think the response for like 99% of the people would be, yeah,
well, of course,
like,
yeah.
that's super gay.
Yeah.
And then you were gonna say,
Turn around and say, okay, but what if it was my dick? Is that gay then?
so let's explain that for folks at home, because I think a lot of people were just like, huh? Can we break that down?
Well, I mean, the short version is some women have dicks. Some women have penises. Some men have vaginas. That you had Buck Angel on the other day.
Right.
He says that a lot. Trans people kind of put lie to this strict binary that we have, that like all men have penises and all penises are owned by men, and vice versa with women and vaginas. And the fact is that there's a lot of trans women out there, and many of them have penises. Some of them are comfortable with them. Some of them like to talk about them. Some of them don't. There's as much variety amongst us as anyone. But it raises this question of, when you interact with a trans body, what is determining your own sexual response and your orientation? Is it the person as a whole? Is it their identity? Is it the genitals? It's a kind of complicated issue.
Right, because if someone feels gay by sucking your dick, then it's not really honoring who you are.
No,
right?
but it's also understandable too, because it's so deeply coded in our society. Like you said, 99% of people,
right.
You ask if sucking dick is gay, of course they're going to say that. But 99% of the people who are attracted to me are straight heterosexual men, and most, like 99% of my partners have been very straight heterosexual men who are only attracted to women, who have never been attracted to men. So if they suck my dick, if we have sex, like, how is that gay if they have no interest in men and they're only attracted to women, and I'm included amongst those women?
Right. One, like, what a huge learning curve that must be, that you probably didn't sign up to to
no,
get
it's
into.
like sometimes like I just want to get laid. Like I don't want to have to do this whole public education every time.
You should record like a PSA and be like, it's not gay if you sucked it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we could.
Like here's the card that has my little speech.
Right.
One of the questions I ask them sometimes is like, okay, so if you think a dick makes this gay, like if you found out your best friend, like say like your big burly best friend, talking to a straight guy, muscles, balding, gut, you find out he had a vagina, would you suddenly want to fuck him? Just because he had a vagina? Like, right. Fuck no, that'd be awful. Like, well, that's the point. We see whole people, we recognize whole people. And now there's some straight men who don't want to get anywhere near a dick, and that's fine. But there are so many straight men who do, and that is completely underground. We do not talk about that. It's a gigantic world that we've just barely skimmed the surface of.
Do you see our guest earlier, Dr. Donahue, was talking about like the fetishization of people, and like do you feel that that straight guys are able to move past the fetish of it in
Rarely.
Really?
At least in my experience. In my experience so far, every man I've met, like if I meet a guy in a club or on a plane or something like that, every single one is checked out after they found out I'm trans. They're totally into it, and then they find out, and then they're like, no, I'm out. And then every guy who's approached me because I'm trans, like if that's the context in which they know me, they're only interested in sex. They're not interested in openly dating. So
they don't want to take you back to what Dr. Donahue was saying. Take you back
introduce
to
me to their families, like out in public, or if they do want to take that in public, but no one can know I'm trans. And again, it's because the stigma that everyone else will think that they're gay or somehow less masculine. And so there's this gigantic world that just like, because that it stays all secret, that's why like a quarter of female escorts in any market are trans women. It's why it's like the third most popular type of pornography, because all these straight men desperately want this kind of interaction, but they don't want that stigma being less masculine or seen as gay, so it all has to be underground and controlled and hidden.
Well, let's talk then about sex work, and that's the theme that's in her story. Why is it that there's a disproportionate number of trans people in it? Is it because there's this huge market for it? Is it because there's not as many opportunities for trans people? Is it both of those? Is it everything?
Yeah, it's all those. It's a really intense collision of factors. I mean, because if trans women represent anywhere from 15 to 25% of like female sex workers in a market, and yet we're like 0.03% of the population.
There's something happening.
There's something happening there. So I think on the demand side, it's exactly what we said. Straight men are really interested in this. It's a novelty. They're intrigued by it. Porn has created a much more like an entry point for a lot of people who wouldn't have otherwise thought about it. They want that access. So there's that high demand. And then for supply, there's a lot of trans women who can't get other work. They're often ousted from schools, and they can't get other work. And then they have high medical costs because transgender care is often not covered. If they can get insurance and doesn't cover, so they can't get other work.
Right.
They need a lot of money to take care of themselves, and all these men really desperately want it, but don't want anyone to know about it. All of that drives to trans sex work.
So I think it kind of begs the bigger question is with sex work, like, is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Are there a lot of issues with it? Like,
yeah, I mean, I kind of bracket those moral questions. I just don't care whether it's good or bad. What I care about is are the women who are engaging in sex work safe? Are they doing it because they want to or because they have no other choice? Are they legally protected? Are they physically safe? The HIV rates are so much higher for trans women, as is violence of every possible kind, particularly at those people who are already marginalized, which tends to be Black and Latina, often young, often poor trans women in the United States. And dozens are killed every year, kind of with impunity, often by intimate partners who had hired them as sex workers and then had this like reflexive shame that results in violence.
well, so easy question. How do we change that?
How do we change that?
Yeah.
A starting point would be to decriminalize sex work. Not necessarily legalize it, but decriminalize
Right.
it. That would take a lot of the pressure off. We also need to normalize trans relationships. We need to have straight men be open. This is the one thing I always say, like, I put the burden on all the men who are hiring trans escorts, watching trans cam girls, and watching trans pornography. There are literally millions of you, and if you all stood up one day and just said, yes, I'm a straight man and I like trans women, and that's okay.
It would change the world.
The issue would go away.
Yeah.
The issue would absolutely go away, because then these men wouldn't have this panic. It would also help if we stopped having straight cis men play trans women on television and movies, because when Jared Leto plays a trans woman and then gets up and accepts an award for it in a full beard, the rest of the world thinks, oh, well, that's what a trans woman really is, underneath the performance.
Right, what the message is in that.
Versus someone like me or Angelica Ross or Laverne Cox or Jamie Clayton, who are, women 24/7.
So I guess it begs the question for people at home, like, what can they do to support their trans family and friends? What can they do to show that support?
There's a lot of things that anyone can do. First and foremost, just listen. Listen with like an open heart and compassion. That makes just the biggest difference. For any marginalized community, just to like listen and really be open to what they have to say. Let them share their experiences. And just that one thing alone will open up so many directions.
Yeah.
But give us your money also helps too. Throw us your money. We need it. Hire us, give us work, give us internships, be nice, lift us up, because we have a lot of work to do. We're a community that's been historically traumatized and oppressed and marginalized for so long that we are decades behind the rest of the LGBT movement in terms of our opportunities.
So where can people find more of you, and where can they check out Her Story?
Yeah, Her Story, you can go to the website herstoryshow.com, or just type in Her Story and trans or whatever, or Emmy. Her Story and Emmy, that'll get it. And you can watch them all on YouTube, and you can find me on all platforms as Smartass Jen.
So Jen, thank you for being here today, and for all you at home, thanks so much for watching. I want to thank our sponsors, Pure for Men and AdamandEve.com, for making all of this possible. And I also want to give a big thank you to Studio 637 and the amazing crew that we have here that was able to put this on for 5 nights in a row live. It was not a small feat. And I also want to thank in a special way my friend Truve, who is a coworker of mine and helped produce this amazing series, who's waving over there. Truve, you're amazing. Thanks guys for watching, and as always, more to come.